Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Uttarakhand, chapter number 21, Ravana and Yama. The recitation begins now. Having reflected thus, that foremost of Vipras, endowed with fleet vigor, bent his steps towards the abode of Yama for the purpose of relating to him all that had taken place. And there he saw that god Yama sitting in front of fire and offering unto it the good and evil fruits of their actions. And seeing the Maharishi Narada arrive there, Yama, offering him arghya according to the ordinance, addressed him, saying, when he was seated at his ease, O Devarishi, is it well with thee? And doth virtue deteriorate? And why, O thou honoured of deities and Gandharvas, dost thou come? Thereat the reverend sage Narada said, Hearken, I shall tell thee, and after hearing me out, do thou what is fit. O king of the Pitris, here cometh the night ranger named Dashagriva, or the 10-necked one, for bringing thee under his sway, thee who art incapable of being conquered. And, O master, for this reason it is that I have come hither hastily. Doubtful what shall befall thee who hast the rod for thy weapon. In the meanwhile, they saw the Rakshas's car approach from afar, flaming and like unto the ray-furnished one risen, and dispelling the gloom of that region with the effulgence of Pushpaka, that exceedingly powerful Rakshasa came forward. And the mighty armed Dashgriva all around saw creatures reaping the consequences of their fair and foul acts. And there he saw Yama's soldiers and followers, fierce forms, grim-visaged and terrific. And he saw corporal beings undergoing torments and pain, emitting loud cries and sharp shrieks, preyed on by worms and fell dogs, and uttering words capable of striking pain and terror into the heart of the listener. And people swimming in the Vaitarini, profusely running blood, and momentarily burning with hot suns. Unrighteous people, pierced in a wood of Asipatra, plunged in Raurava, in the river of borate of soda, and cut with razor edges, asking for drinks, and afflicted with hunger and thirst, converted into corpses, lean, woebegone, and pallid, with hair flowing loosely, having dust and filth on their bodies, and running about distressfully with dry forms. On the way saw Ravana by hundreds and by thousands. And Ravana also saw some in front of houses engaged in merrymaking with songs and strains of instruments as fruits of their pious acts, and saw the giver of kine regaling themselves with milk, the dispenser of rice feeding on the same, the bestower of abodes enjoying mansions as a fruit of their several acts, and persons living with damsels decked with gold and gems and jewels and other pious folks, flaming in their native energy. All these saw Ravana, the lord of Rakshasas. And by his might, that mighty one delivered those that were being tormented by their wicked acts. And on being liberated by that Rakshasa, the 10-necked one, those creatures in a moment began to enjoy their release that had come to them without thought or suspense. And on the dead being delivered by the magnanimous Rakshasa, the gods of the dead, being enraged, rushed at the Rakshasa sovereign. And there arose a mighty tumult from all sides, from the heroic warriors of the king of righteousness rushing all around. And those heroes by hundreds and by thousands assailed Pushpaka with prachas and bludgeons and darts and maces and spears and tomaras. And swiftly swarming like bees, they began to break the seats, blocks, daisies, and gateways of the car. And in that conflict, Pushpaka, presided over by divine energy, incapable of being destroyed by virtue of Brahma's power, being broken, resumed its former shape. Countless were the soldiers of that high-souled one, consisting hundreds and thousands of heroic warriors, ever forward for fight. And according to the measure of their might, Ravana's counselors, great heroes all, as well as the 10-faced one himself, with might and main, fought with trees and crags and hundreds of blocks of buildings. And those counselors of the Lord of Rakshasas assailed with every kind of weapons, with their persons bathed in blood, fought fiercely. And, O large armed one, the exalted counselors of Yama and Ravana sore assailed each other with arms. And leaving the counselors alone, the highly powerful warriors of Yama rushed against the Shanana with a shower of spears. And then, pierced through and through by these weapons, with his person covered with blood, the Rakshasa king appeared like a flowering Kimshuka in Pushpaka. And thereat, that powerful one, by virtue of his mastery over weapons, began to hurl darts and maces, brachas and spears, and tomaras and crags and trees. And that terrific shower of trees, rocks, and arms alighted on the army of Yama fighting on the earth. And snapping those weapons and resisting those volleys of arms, they smote at the Rakshasa, fighting alone by hundreds and thousands, and encompassing him even as clouds encompass mountains. They rendered Ravana inert by means of bhindipalas and darts, and with his mail torn open, his anger raging fiercely, and covered with blood streaming over his person, he, forsaking his car, stood upon the ground. And then, furnished with his bow and holding his shafts, Ravana, regaining his senses in a short time, increased in energy and stood in the field like the finisher. And now, fixing the divine Pashupatastra on his bow, and saying unto them, Slay, slay, he drew that bow. And enraged, Ravana, resembling Rudra himself in fight, drawing his bow to his car, discharged that shaft even as Shankara had discharged at Tripura. And the appearance of the shaft was like an extinguishing fire in summer, with smoke, with flames, burning up a forest. And garlanded with glory, that shaft, followed by ghosts in that encounter, rushed on, burning to ashes those loose bushes and trees lying in its way. And burnt up by its energy, the most of Vaivasvata fell down in the field like unto the banners of Mahendra. And thereat, the Rakshasa of terrific prowess, along with his counselors, began to set up tremendous shouts as if making the earth tremble. Mangalam Koshalendraya Mahaniya Gunabde Chakravarti Dhanurjaya Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam.